Welcome to the Dynasty Vipers Vipercast, where all things football are injected right to your veins, with your hosts, Matt Donnelly, Calvin Shoemake, and Jeff Mueller.
What is up? And welcome to the Dynasty Vipers Vipercast Team Spotlight Series. I'm your host at Calvin and Hobby. You can find me on Twitter. And we are on show number 30. Not show number 28, not show number 3. We are on show number 30, where we are talking about the Atlanta Falcons. Hopefully you guys picked up on that subtle little hint right there. And I'm a Saints fan, so I can say that I can give a 28-3 joke here. And these guys are fun, and they were giving me a lot of trouble in the intro, so they can take it. They're tough. They're going to give it right back. We're talking about the Atlanta Falcons today, and as we've been doing all along, we bring in some really smart fantasy guys, really smart football guys, and enjoy talking about their team, what we can expect over the offseason, what has happened in 2020 leading up to it, the changes that were made, a lot of things to talk about in Atlanta. So to do that, brought in a really cool crew. So to my left, I've got Mr. D Brown. Do you want me to call you D? Is that or Brown? How you want me to refer to you today?
Yeah, no, D works just fine for me.
All right, very cool. Well, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell them where we can find you and what you're going to be working on over the offseason.
Yeah, you can find me at DBrownFF88 on Twitter. Also holding down the Sons of Dynasty. So look for us over there. That's at Dynasty Sons. And also been kicking it with all of the True North clan over there. Diving into a bunch of content. Got a new website on the way right now. So we're gonna have a bunch of content coming this year. Looking forward to working with those guys. Kind of teamed up Sons of Dynasty with True North, and it's a beautiful thing. So I'm really looking forward to this upcoming season and talking Falcons tonight with you fellas.
Yeah, those are some really cool crews right there. Love those guys. How about Javar? How can we find you, and what are you working on this offseason?
Well, we just working on a bunch of content. We just recently finished up our live pod with Marcus Grant. We did buys and sell for this off season, so you guys can check that out. That should be uploaded to our podcast sometime this week. The live viewing is still on our Twitter handle at Fantasy in Session. And you can also go find it on our YouTube page. But we're just gonna bring a lot of content. We're gonna change it up this off season, and we're gonna do like some panels where we go up and we're gonna reach out to several amateur analysts and bring them onto the show so they could talk about players, and our podcast would just be the panel. So we got some things where we're going to interact with a lot of amateur analysts just like ourselves this off season, so we can connect and bring some great content. And thank you for having me here.
Yeah, of course. What's up to Nate? Definitely glad to have you joining it. Anybody in the comments, feel free to get in here, ask your questions to these guys, and we'll talk about anything you guys want to talk about with the team. And Brother Matt, how about you? How are you today, and where can we find what you're working on?
Man, I'm doing great. Thanks for having us on here tonight. You can definitely find me kicking it with D Brown over on Dynasty Sons and with True North. Right now, we've been working on a lot of the rookie hype videos. I hope you can get over to YouTube on TNFF Network. That's True North's YouTube page. We've been throwing down a lot of rookie hype and first year, second year player type videos. So go over there and check that stuff out. Having fun with that.
Yeah, that's really cool. And Javar, I love that you had Marcus Grant on, man. I had him, me and Matt Donnelly had him on last year. He was just such a cool dude. Loved listening to him. So, just super smart at fantasy, and just could not have been nicer. I think it was like our third or fourth show, and he was just nice enough to be willing to come on, and just love that sort of so many that give back. And it sounds like you got a really cool series that you're working on. So I want to start with you. You're rocking the Falcons hat. You got the shirt on right there. Tell me about your history with the team. What are you working on? What have you worked on with the team, or just as a fan? Tell me your history.
Well, I started right around where we had the quarterback Chris Chandler. And I know his last name. Well, and then we had Jamal Anderson. That's when I came in, and Mathis out there, wide receiver, Crumpley. That's when I came in as a Falcon fan. And before then, though, I still watched the Falcons, but they was so sorry. And so the one year when Bird came and all hype, and then when Michael Vick came, it was up from there. So I always been a Falcons fan, to stay a Falcons fan. I'm looking forward to the off season. We got a new head coach, a new GM. So it's a lot of uncertainty of what they're going to do. You know, if we had the same people in place from last year, I would kind of have a more ideal of what the team's going to do here. But I'm just waiting to draft to see. Once we finish the draft, I know which way the team is going with Matt Ryan, with Julio, with all our vets. Once we draft and do free agency, I know where the team is going.
Brother Matt, let me kick it back over to you. What's your history with the team as a fan?
I grew up in Georgia, so like these guys, I was a little bit of a Falcons fan, but mostly a Braves fan because that was what was hype in Georgia in the 80s and the early 90s. We had a little bit of Billy White Shoes Johnson and some of that little bit of swag going on, but not much. And then we got the Jerry Glanville days. We got the Dion and the all black and stuff like that. And that's when like it really, I don't know. That's when my Falcons fandom really came into form. And then I went off into the Navy and ended up moving off into the mountains into like a little bit of an outdoor rec town. And I missed football for a long time. And then fell in love with fantasy again back in, 2013, 14. And that's when I reconnected with the Falcons. And it's been a good time since then. We've had Julio, we've had Matt, we've had a decent offense, and we've had a lot of disappointing seasons. So it's been all right, though.
I was a huge Dale Murphy fan. Growing up right here, TNT was TNT or WGN. You could either watch the Cubs or the Braves, and I just fell in love with the Braves. I was at Game 5 in 1995 when they won, or Game 6 when Justice hit that home run and they won the World Series. Like I was at that game. I love Atlanta, like especially the Braves. Falcons are fun.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
Dale Murphy, like Darrell Evans, like, oh yeah, don't even get me started. We could do a whole like 2 hours on.
There we go.
You have
Claudel Washington.
You have to visit the new stadium. You will fall in love with it, man. I love the new stadium, man. Oh my God.
The whole area right around there, the stadium, that they got a nice bar atmosphere. I've gone onto those bars right there many a times. It's a good time.
I'm going back. As soon as they open things up, I'm going back with I have a 12-year-old who loves baseball. We're going to go back. I went to Ozzie Albies' second game. So I think it was at the new stadium right there. And you're right. That whole area is awesome.
Nice.
So D, how about you? History with the team as a fan? Like, did you grow up as a Atlanta Falcon fan?
Yeah, I was born and raised here in Atlanta. My earliest Falcon memory I really have is right around the 99 Super Bowl run that they had, where they lost to the Broncos. I think I was, 5th or 6th grade at the time, but that's really my first Falcons memory. And, like we mentioned, Jamal Anderson, some of the Chris Chandler, Ray Buchanan, a couple of those. I was all in that era, and but like mentioned, the Braves were hot right now, and this was also coming right after we had just had the Olympics there in Atlanta. So the Falcons weren't really on the radar then. Even when they made that run, they just kind of came to it, and then they dropped the ball when it came down to the Super Bowl, and it seems like it's something that we can't shake loose when it comes to dropping the ball. Lifelong Falcons fan. I live and bleed the black and red here in Atlanta, and I always will.
Quick story about that Super Bowl. So me and my fiance, we was in Nashville, Tennessee in grad school at the time. We invited people over for the Super Bowl. We like, yeah, come on our hometown. We finna win, do this. We finna, man. And we was all hyped at halftime and everything. Then third quarter came, fourth quarter. Like, what y'all doing? Why y'all crying? I swear, I kid you not. When the game ended, my fiance said, I don't care what y'all doing, but y'all got to leave. I do not want to see y'all face right now. Y'all got to go. She kicked everybody out the house. So
I was laying on the floor, my man.
I went and watched the game with one of my buddies. We call him Big Money Blake, all right? And Big Money Blake says, "Man, I want to put some action down on this game. What's up?" And I was like, "Dude, we going for the home team, ATL all the way. Let's do it." So he locks in 500 for Atlanta, and come halftime, I mean, we were celebrating. We were getting after it as far as drinks go and everything else. And then the second half, when it got sloppy, we got sloppy. I couldn't believe it, and I still remember this. I saw just the other night they were playing that game on the NFL Network late night, and I scrolled past it. And as I scrolled past, I thought about clicking on it. I was like, "Don't do that. You don't want to climb into that hole. It's Tuesday night. You don't want to do that." So I clicked past it, but it was a dagger to the heart, man, and it always will be. I don't think there's a Falcons fan alive that won't always remember that game.
I just the play I remember. What we got a turnover, whatever we're driving, instead of handing the ball off to Devontae Freeman, they try to throw it, and then if something happened the first down, the second down, they throw it and fumble. I was heated. Like, we just made a play to Julio, a big play. Like, run the ball, man.
Well, and
I don't want to put it in Matt Ryan's hand with the game on the line. I'm sorry. I love the man, but he gets the yips. Do something else with it.
So, Jafar, you mentioned Michael Vick, and so I've got a 12-year-old that I mentioned, and he's learning about so many of the quarterbacks of the past by YouTube highlights, right? No one has better YouTube highlights than Michael Vick. So he is convinced the greatest quarterback of all time was Michael Vick because he's got the best highlights that there ever were. But, then obviously after that, we turned the page and you guys went to Matt Ryan. And Matt Ryan has been a very steady, great quarterback for you. Even in 2020, I don't feel like he was a bad quarterback. I mean, he's the kind of quarterback you can win with. But season didn't go quite the way that you thought. So, D, let me just toss it over to you. 2020, what was that like as a fan? Take us through the season for you.
It was tough. I had a lot of hype coming into this year. Even the acquisition of Todd Gurley, I was starting to kind of buy in and believe that he might be that piece. And I know that the writing was on the wall about Gurley falling off as far as the running back cliff goes, but I'll be damned if it didn't kind of sneak up on me a little bit. Even still, I was expecting a little bit more. I thought we would utilize his assets a little bit better, a little bit more. 2017 Todd Gurley, 2018, but it was far from that. It was pretty much a waste of a signing in my eyes. Ito Smith and Brian Hill probably would have been better off, attempting to carry a little bit more of the load and using that money elsewhere. So it was a disappointment with injuries and. It seemed like just about every week, Dan Quinn, Super Bowl reminiscent, was making kind of some bonehead play calls when it came down to, clock management and game management towards the end of the game. Fourth quarter's not closing out. And it cost him his job in the end, and rightfully so. I don't think that there's many Atlanta fans that weren't ready to, hand Dan over to the Wolves. Love the guy. He's a player's coach, gets guys to buy in, but ultimately he was making decisions that were costing this football team wins.
How about you, brother Matt?
Yeah, I'm right with him. I'm probably one of the bigger Dan Quinn fans out there. I just really like the human being, Dan Quinn. He is a great person. He is a great leader of men. I think he really forged a great sense of brotherhood within the team, and we really had so much going for us, but just not the best coach. And from the Bears game to obviously the Cowboys game that everybody remembers, and the Chargers game, the other one we blew, we just couldn't. We were embarrassment last year, to tell you the truth. I'm in West Virginia, and we didn't even get a single game on our TV last year. So I mean, we were getting Bengals games over Falcons games down here. So not a whole lot to say. I love Dan Quinn, but I was glad to see him go.
Javar, how about 2020?
Man, it was a horrible year. I'm with brother Matt over there. I like Dan Quinn, what he brought to the team and what have you, but just after we lost the Super Bowl, the brotherhood wasn't getting it for me. I wanted him to push competition at each position because obviously we needed it. Like, yeah, your spot can be taken at any moment. Don't pat each other on the back. We come in here every day. That's what we need right now. after the Super Bowl, that's what we needed. Beforehand, the brotherhood was good. We had great players in place. But after the Super Bowl, he didn't switch up his coaching. You know, he is a player's coach, but it wasn't producing on the field. It just wasn't showing on the field. They wasn't calling the right plays. A lot of plays, people was out of place. The free agency signings didn't work. With Ty Gurley, with the D lineman, the edge rusher,
Fowler.
Fowler. Yeah. He got six sacks that year. So that was horrible. And I really gave up on the season. You know, after the first three games, after us losing at the end, I was like, we can get it together. It's just the last 2 minutes. So all we got to do is this. But after the Bears game, when they took out Nick Foles and torched us, I was done. I was like, I'm over it for this year, man. I'm still going to watch the games, but I'm not going to go into it with, you know, high anticipation. I'm just going to watch it to see so I can analyze my team and know where we need to do. But other than that, man, it was a horrible season. Good thing I won a fantasy league, or else it would have been a waste.
Yeah, that always helps ease the pain a little bit, no doubt. Like you get to week like 6 or 7, and you're like, all right, I'm just going to root for my fantasy team now. You've definitely had those kind of years, no doubt. But yeah, so but good for Arthur Blank, right? He kind of recognized that, and like you said, he was a beloved figure, but he cleaned house. I mean, including right way up at the top, and got rid of the GM, Thomas Dimitroff, brought in Terry Fontenot, who's got ties right here in New Orleans. Brought in Arthur Smith and Dave. Is it Ragon? I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce that, but as the offensive coordinator, and you know, just almost completely starting over, which is in my opinion, seems like it's a really good sign. I mean, Terry Fontenot is a really smart guy. Loved having him here. Hated to lose him. Joel, I'm gonna kick it right back over to you. Like, what's your thought on just at the very top of the organization, like what they're starting to build now? Do you think this is a recipe for success for the future?
One confusing thing was we signed Arthur Blank, but we don't have I guess we signed, not Arthur Blank. We signed Arthur Smith. I guess we signed him to make our running game better. I thought we would get a coach that know more about passing, would call more passing plays, since we have a great passing team. So that was kind of confusing there. But if I think about if Arthur Smith can bring some running game to the offense, that will help out Matt Ryan with play action, and we will not have to worry about our O-line as much. That's my main thing. Like, when people talk about Matt Ryan, I tell them it's not all Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan can go to the Colts and take them probably to the Super Bowl, because they have an O-line. The Falcons do not have an O-line, and Matt Ryan is not mobile. And I preach that it's better to have a mobile quarterback in the NFL now. Every mobile quarterback is going to the playoffs besides Tom Brady. Aaron Rodgers is mobile. He breaks the pocket. He's not running 50 yards a game, but he breaks the pocket and sting plays, which Matt Ryan cannot do often. But I'm very high. Terry, I read a lot about him. A lot of people had positive things to say about him. They said he's very smart. He does his homework. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking forward to this draft and see who we get. And I'm more optimistic now. So if we get some people on the D or O line, every year when we got people, I didn't really trust them because our organization did not know how to scout the D and offensive line. We can scout everywhere else, linebacker and wide receiver, but we cannot.
So many wide receivers.
Right. So now I'm hoping Terry and Arthur can cook some magic in the trenches, man. I believe that's all we really need. It's some trenches work.
Yeah, Brother Matt, toss it over to you. Obviously, and one of you guys, I think it was Javar, mentioned the competition, bringing the competition. And Terry Fontenot has already been preaching that. Like he's like, yeah, I want to bring in guys at quarterback or wide receiver. Like, I don't care if we already have an answer there. I want to bring in guys to compete. What do you think about the tone that he's setting so far?
Well, if you look at what he's been doing, just not really on the personnel side, but more on the organizational side of things, he's cleaning house. He got rid of a few big player members this week. I'm sorry, I don't have on my notes in front of me who, but really across the board, he's firing a lot of people and looking to bring some new people in there. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the diversity side of bringing Terry Fontenot over to the team. Arthur Blank talked a whole lot about hiring a black head coach this year, and it's really a topic that I'm hot on, just because it seems like it's something that's it's getting ignored across the league. So I would have liked to seen something different other than Arthur Smith leading the team, but he seemed to be Terry Fontenot's guy. He was hired a couple weeks before Smith was, and really had a chance to do things. So I'm on board with that, and we'll see how things go.
D, what do you think? I mean, I and even in the comments here, Mike has mentioned it, which we'll get to in just a second, about the scheme that Arthur Smith is going to run. However, you mentioned that as well. But what do you think about the coaching staff and the direction that the team seems to be going in?
Well, like they mentioned, it's a new regime here coming in, and they're going to set the tone here. And they've got the 4th overall pick, which I think for us outsiders is really going to be telling for what the tone is going to be. Lots of rumors in circulation right now. They've got aging assets as far as Matt Ryan, 35, and Julio Jones, 31, coming off an injury-hampered year. Serious questions that they need to ask themselves in the front office. Unfortunately, a trade for either one doesn't make a ton of sense for the program. So I know that there has been talk about bringing in a quarterback or bringing in a wide receiver, and I don't think that that's out of the question for them, as early as pick 4. But I think more than anything, they're creating a little bit of more buzz around their number 4 pick, and saying, no, quarterback's not off our board, and if he's important to you, you're going to have to pay up to come and get him. So I think more than anything, it just doesn't make sense that Ryan's going to go anywhere to be a trade. So I think he's going to be there. Today's NFL, I know that they like to draft a quarterback and have him sit a year behind the would-be starter. But with the current structure that the Falcons have, having Matt Ryan and Julio Jones, it really just doesn't make sense. I think it's a little bit more of a win now piece. They keep those assets that they do have. And, I won't give away too much here as far as where I think they're going with the 104. But I'm excited about the options that they have available. And, like I said, that 104 pick is going to be very telling.
Well, I think that's a good place to start next right there, because that's really the most important question for this team is how much left do you think Matt Ryan has? And are you ready to go ahead and turn the page and use that asset? You're hoping you don't end up with the 4 pick again, right? I mean, this is a year where you want to utilize that pick if you got it. And if there's a guy there that you love, it seems like you'd want to go ahead and take that pick. I'll never forget knowing Matt Ryan was going to make it when I want to say it was a preseason game. There was a throw that he made, and just the confidence he had and the way he carried himself. Like, I just knew he had it. Brother Matt, we'll start with you and we just kick it around the room. Like, is there a guy that you think that he can turn the keys over to, like maybe within a year or two, that is in this draft?
Yeah, absolutely. If you look at Fields or Wilson, I would be comfortable with either of them two coming in and sitting for a year behind Ryan. You really don't get a chance to pick at the 104 very often. So if you're in love with one of these two guys, I think it's the right move. I agree with D that it doesn't make a ton of sense this year to get rid of Ryan and Julio. I think the team's going to keep pushing with a win now sort of aspect. I don't think that we're going to sell off all of our assets. So, we're hoping for at least 8 wins if things go average, and then maybe 10 wins if things go decent, or 11 wins or something like that. So, yeah, I could see him taking a quarterback just because you're not here very often. But also, there's a lot of misses in that first round. If you look back at the last 5 years, just because you're up there and just because the guy looks good doesn't mean you're going to hit on him. So, and the way the free agent quarterback landscape is this year, there's a lot of decent quarterbacks out there like the Mariotas or whoever that could be just as good as a Justin Fields possibly.
Interesting comment coming in here. Somebody's going to be a little bit upset if you draft the quarterback. What do you think? Fantasy in session?
And I don't know who that is, Gabriel Carlos, but if at 104, we got to get a quarterback. If we don't get a quarterback, I don't mind them drafting back a couple spots to let somebody else draft Field, and we get Trey Lance and another second-round pick. I would like that more if we can just draft back a couple spots and pick up Trey Lance, and then get a second-round pick. I just don't want to be one of those organizations where, Matt Ryan is going and we got Mitch Trubisky at quarterback, or, we got Andy Dalton at quarterback, or who's the quarterback for the Washington football team? Dwayne Haskins. I don't want that situation. It all starts at the quarterback. We got to have a decent quarterback. And on the other hand, I do not believe Matt Ryan days are numbered. I still think he's a good quality quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
We just got to go one of the ways. We either got to get an O lineman or we got to get a quarterback. I don't want to see a D lineman or a cornerback or anybody. It's either O lineman or the quarterback. We got to get somebody to help Matt Ryan, or we got to get somebody that can be mobile at quarterback, and we don't have to worry about the O-line. As you see the things that happen in Houston and Kansas City, they don't have an O-line, but the quarterbacks still make magic happen, and they still score points in there. And, Houston wasn't in the game, but Kansas City, was still in the game. So that's what I look forward to. It's becoming an offensive. The NFL is prone. I mean, the NFL is catered to the offensive guys, with all the penalties, and you can't do all this. So why not get the top offensive players to guide you, since it's catered to the guys? And at 104, man, I really can't wait to see what they do. I'm just going to I have no choice to let the GM and the head coach do what they're going to do. But I don't want to see them pass up a quarterback, man.
Yeah, especially if you believe in the guy. But D, I'll toss this over to you. Like, it really does depend on, like, does Terry Fontenot believe this is a team that he can win with in the next couple of years, or is this a team that he thinks, that I need to go ahead and start rebuilding a little bit? I mean, let's just say that was you. Like, where would you be wanting to take the team?
I have mixed emotions on it. Honestly, I've kind of swayed back and forth myself over the offseason as far as seizing the opportunity to get one of these top tier quarterbacks of this, semi decent quarterback class that we have coming in here. But the other part of me, like I mentioned before, Matt Ryan is with the Falcons as of right now, and there's not really an A to B straight line situation where that's not the case. It would hurt the franchise to get rid of Matt Ryan at this point. So, do we want to use our first round pick? We're stuck with Matt Ryan. Do we continue on and try and continue to maybe make a go and run, get Matt Ryan another weapon, like we said, for this offense? We know Julio Jones is aging, but we've still got Calvin Ridley, who's one of our favorite wide receivers in the league right now. And we've got Matt Ryan. If we can address the run game, maybe get one more other weapon for Matt Ryan, and then at the back end of the draft, try and kind of load in on some defensive help. We don't have a lot of money to bring in free agents, so our back's kind of up against the wall as far as finding free agent help. I think we're probably going to offer a 1-year deal to some running back that we can come in and pair with a rookie that we're likely to get at probably the third round, if I had to guess. We won't necessarily get a top 2 or 3 prospect running back, but I think waiting at pick potentially, 99 or something somewhere in there. I think that there is a serviceable running back that could be an asset to the Falcons. Try and establish the run game. Get Smith to start running his program that he's familiar with here in Atlanta. That's kind of what I'd rather see as a Falcons fan. I'm hungry. I want to eat. Let's get some guys. And to be honest, at 104, I'd love for the Falcons to be able to, maybe trade back to one of these teams like Carolina that is hungry for a quarterback. Of course, we're open to taking a quarterback, but if I can tax, a team like the Panthers, a divisional rival, make them pay to come up and get one of these guys, potentially build up more capital in this year's draft, not to mention potentially next year's draft. I think that's where it's at for the Falcons. You move back to 7 or 8, wherever Carolina's at, on top of maybe an additional second round pick this year, second round pick next year. I think that this management would be wise to try to load up on some capital, still being able to get a top prospect in this year's draft, staying in the top 15 or so, and then that kind of gives you options as far as taking best player available. And if they don't throw Benjamins in my face when I'm trying to put this pick on the block, I'm taking Kyle Pitts because he's the best player available at 104. Matt Ryan has a weapon like Kyle Pitts, Calvin Ridley, and Julio Jones when my guy can get on the field. All of a sudden, Falcons offense is, boot scooting as far as I'm concerned in 2021. And I don't care if they don't address the run game. Like I said, they could get it later on, second, third round. NFL doesn't value running backs these days. Unless they're trying to get him at the back end of the first and maybe get that 5th-year option. NFL, all in all, they don't care about the running back position. They don't value it as much as we do in fantasy football. And I think a player like Kyle Pitts, to tie him in for the new regime coming in, that's a cornerstone piece for an offense. No matter if Matt Ryan's in for the future of the Atlanta Falcons or not, Kyle Pitts locked in at a tight end, and all of a sudden you've got something you're working with moving forward.
Kyle Pitts to Atlanta would be amazing. That'd be a great way, great bang to start the draft right there. And yeah, that would be just for fantasy purpose. That just seems like that would be an amazing spot for him. Let's talk about the running back position. And D, you mentioned it. Javar, I'll throw this to you. But Mike asked in the comments here, who will they have to run that gap zone rushing scheme? Are they going free agent or draft to fill that need? And they've obviously made a big splash when they said, hey, we're not bringing back Todd Gurley. That leaves a really big hole. And for fantasy, that could be really good. You mentioned it. They had a tough time closing out some games. A running game, I know they don't matter as much, but it could help you if you have a really good running back. What direction do you think they're going to go in?
I think most likely the draft. As we mentioned, we don't have much money. But if we can make some cap room space, one running back I would love to see in Atlanta and run game is Leonard Fournette. I think he would be this, and we can bring the old Leonard Fournette back, and he will definitely fit his run scheme. He still has some tread on the wheels, as we've seen in what do you call himself, Super Bowl Lenny or
playoff Lenny, Super Lenny.
Playoff Lenny, the Super Bowl Lenny, yep.
Right. So bring that Super Bowl Lenny to Atlanta if we can sign him on a decent deal. And I would like that. But I read some they got us as early taking Javonte Williams in the second. Even I would love some defensive help in the second, but I love Javonte Williams' film. I think he should be the second running back taken off the board. Yep. So if we get that guy, man, the sky is the limit. I would love that. That would be another asset for Matt Ryan to help out in play action. I think that's all Matt Ryan needs is some play action with the run game. And so, yes, it's either those. And I also seen they said we wait till the 4th or 6th round to get the running back from Ohio State. He's not Javonte Williams, but he has skill. Yeah, he catch the ball and he runs very well. And so that's why I see us going. I don't think we sign anybody out of free agency. I think they may sign like some linemen first before they sign a running back and just get a young guy in the draft.
I think that definitely makes some sense. This is an interesting one too. Kenneth Gainwell in Atlanta would be definitely really nice. Brother Matt, what do you think? There's a big hole right there. Ito Smith, probably not the answer, right?
No, I'm totally on board with Javar. Give me Javonte in the second.
Yeah.
And I'm buying a jersey right off the bat. Go ahead and give me that 34 jersey or whatever it is.
Yeah, he's nasty.
And as far as D Brown says with Pitts, I agree. Let's trade back a little bit from that 4. Maybe, I don't know, Broncos or somebody trying to hop up there. I'd like to see us push some of those assets back to 22 or 23, fall back a little bit in this draft, and ride out that Julio Matt Ryan combo one more year, and then maybe reset it next year.
D, what do you think? Running back position? How do you think they attack that in the offseason?
Yeah. I think they're going to do what I think a lot of NFL teams are going to do, and that is dabble with free agency. The running back market is crap right now. And I think a bunch of the running backs know it. You're going to see a bunch of 1 year, 2 year deals, guys just trying to get money where they can. The cliff, running back age cliff, seems to be getting closer and closer to 25 every year. And there's a new stable of guys coming in. So I think you're going to see a lot of 1 year, a couple mil here deals for guys like a Jamal Williams, Lenny Fournette. As much as I'd like him in Atlanta, coming off that Super Bowl, he wants to get paid, and I don't know that Atlanta's in the cards for them to pay a guy even of Leonard Fournette's cap. I think a guy more like a Mike Davis or something might make a little bit more sense for Atlanta.
Gus Edwards.
Gus, I think, Gus. They just put a second round tender on him, as far as I know. So. We'll see what happens there, but yeah, a little bit cheaper of the market as far as free agents go. And then I would like to see them address it through the draft. If a guy like Javonte is there in the second, I wouldn't be opposed to pulling the trigger. But, if it's any lower than that, I'd probably punt the position again until later in the third and hope that I could get a guy like my guy Nate mentioned, a Gainwell, in the third potentially. I think he's serviceable. I really like the film on him. And, I think they are going to address it in both aspects this year, as will many other NFL teams. But the run game is definitely a priority for us in Atlanta, especially with Smith coming in.
See, with Terry Fontenot, I kind of wonder there's a connection there with Latavius Murray. That's a name that I've been kind of wondering if they might add. I mean, he definitely showed that he still had something. Not a lot of tread on his tires the last couple of years. He's a little older. He's not your answer, but, it could be pretty interesting. But if this was Madden and I was simming the draft and I was taking it, if I could walk away with Pitts and Javonte Williams, dude, that's just, It doesn't get better than that. That's as a fan, that would have to be pretty exciting.
A Pitts jersey, even though I live in Georgia, I am a Florida Gator fan. I've just been that way since I was younger. All my friends were Georgia Bulldog fans, and I wanted to stand out. So damn it if I didn't choose the Florida Gators. And I've ridden with them since I was a little kid. So I'm a big Pitts fan. I was hyping him up in 2019. So to see him go here, if there's even a possibility my guy lands in Atlanta, it's over with. I'm all in. I've joked about the 101 on Pitts before. If my guy goes to Atlanta, I don't care what format it is. Lock Pitts in at that 101.
Javar, all due respect to Roddy White, Julio Jones is the best wide receiver that you guys have had for a long time now. And, it's kind of seems like, based on the comments that are coming out of Atlanta, this could be a last ride for Matt Ryan and for Julio Jones. Like, do you think it's time? Do you think it's kind of getting to that point where it's like, are you ready to see him in a different uniform?
I think Julio may retire a Falcon. I think the connection with him and Arthur Blank has always been respectful. When Julio asked for a raise, what Arthur Blank do? Bag up the Brinks truck. Like, dude, you do everything on the field. He's a great professional. I think he could have played this year, but it was like, dude, why play? We're playing for nothing. We won't pick 104, okay, Julio? So I think Julio is there, and I will know more about Matt Ryan once we get through the first round. If we don't take a quarterback, then I know Matt Ryan is there for 2-3 years or to finish out his contract, and Julio should be there with him, because if they don't get a quarterback, they're showing that they're trying to win with this team. I really just think Julio is a lifer. He's the most profile Falcon we have had since Michael Vick and Deion Sanders. So I think he's here for life.
Brother Matt, I mean, you agree with that? And I just, from a fantasy perspective, Dynasty, how should we be valuing Julio right now?
Ooh,
that's a tough question. I like players a little bit younger when it comes to Dynasty. So if you don't already have Julio on your team, you're probably not making a bunch of big moves to go get him right now. He's probably, as far as Dynasty owners are concerned, is going to be more of a target once the season starts kicking in. They start seeing him producing these 20-point games in and out, and then you're going to see a little bit more Julio trades for guys that are seeing themselves as a win-now team. And I totally agree with Javar, though. The connection with Julio in Atlanta goes deeper than just him being a great player. He is an amazing professional. He's an amazing leader of the team. You listen to Calvin Ridley talk about Julio, and he thinks the guy is just a god just because he's a true leader, true mentor, and I don't see us moving on for him.
I'm not sure since Steve Smith, I've been more afraid of a wide receiver than I have been of Julio Jones to see him line up against my team. He's unbelievable. The catches he makes are just fascinating. D, what do you think? I mean, like from a fantasy perspective, some of these trades I'm seeing, like Laviska Shenault for Julio Jones. Give me a break. Like we're not to that point yet. He's going to be if he plays all 16 games, he's going to be a wide receiver 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I mean, as a dynasty owner, you got to ask yourself, and you want to try to get out in front of these things. And I mean, honestly, at this point, it's almost a little too late as far as Julio Jones owners go. I think last year, kind of before the injury started rolling in, was kind of the ideal time to sell him. As of right now, most rosters that I do have Julio, he's a strong hold for me. I think that, the value that he brings to my fantasy team far supersedes any value that anybody's willing to fork over for him at this point. Startups, he's going as an early wide receiver 3, going outside the top 20 in most cases. And, I think he could be a value for a contending team. So my prerogative is, as of right now, to hold him, like Brother Matt mentioned, until, the mid-season when, the standings start to shake out and guys get that I'm going to make a run fever. Julio's a great piece for a contending team. I think that's when you need to look to move him. And this year, I don't think that you'll get another option. Best hope is that Matt Ryan is still slinging the rock this year, and they don't bring in a rookie to start throwing the ball to Julio. If you can get some decent production out of Matt Ryan and Julio Jones to start this year, you sell to whoever's 3-0, whoever's 4-0, whoever's 5-0, and you get whatever you can for him. By this time next year, we might think that Laviska Shenault for Julio Jones is a no-brainer. We're talking about Trevor Lawrence going to the Jacksonville Jaguars and all the opportunity in the world for my guy Laviska. You're getting me hot. Let's move on.
I'll just add one thing. I do think Laviska would be a great play with Trevor Lawrence. If you're a dynasty team and you're contending, just hold on to Julio and keep him. He could help you win the ship. And if you're contending, like they said, just hold Julio into the season. And when he produces a couple points, try to get something good back for him. His value will only rise once he's playing again. I don't think you can get much for Julio now. It's probably hard to trade Julio for what you think he's worth.
Brother Matt, I mentioned earlier Roddy White. He kind of handed the torch off to Julio, and now Julio's going to be handing the torch off to another really talented wide receiver in Calvin Ridley. What's the ceiling is for Ridley? Julio superseded Roddy. Could Ridley supersede Julio?
I don't know. That's a pretty tall order. I don't really see that as much. I think Ridley almost is able to exist how he is now because of Julio. I don't know if Ridley is going to necessarily be a dominating wide receiver 1 like Julio is able to. He just doesn't have the physical presence to scare defenses.
D, what do you think the ceiling is for Ridley?
Ridley's top 5 as of right now, as long as Matt Ryan's throwing the ball 600 times a year like the Falcons are prone to do. Does that number come down a little bit this year under Smith and co? Perhaps, but unless they are willing to address this offensive line and this running back situation, they're not going to have many options as far as the run game goes. So it's going to be telling for sure. But I love Calvin Ridley. I was a big advocate for him this past year, and I love to see him. What he did this year was pretty outstanding. He posted career high marks both in receptions and receiving yards, while hauling in 9 touchdowns in over 15 games. Julio Jones did get a little hampered this year, and part of that is maybe the reason why the opportunity was great for Ridley, but his 1,374 receiving yards were over 500 more than he recorded in either of his previous first 2 years, and he racked up 40 receptions of 15 yards or more, and that was more than any other receiver in the NFL. I think the sky is the limit for Calvin Ridley. He's a route running technician, and Matt Ryan and him seem to have, a nice rapport, and it looks like that's going to continue into 2021. Julio, I think, with age is going to kind of start to, wind back the snaps a little bit more. He's going to come in and be a little bit more of a positional player. I don't think he's going to be a target hog in that Atlanta offense here moving forward. Give me a guy like Kyle Pitts at the 104, and that big body presence is back in Atlanta.
So I would be I'd be curious to see how that would go for Calvin Ridley, because I almost feel like in 2019 when we were doing our shows, I felt like Calvin Ridley's breakout was sort of hindered by Austin Hooper kind of breaking out, and Austin Hooper was getting a lot of those targets. And when Austin Hooper would miss, Calvin Ridley would have a big game. But it was almost like every time they were in the lineup together, Matt Ryan seemed to go towards that tight end position. And you've had some good guys there for Matt Ryan to throw to. If Kyle Pitts was there, Javar, would that mute what the upside could be for Calvin Ridley?
Most definitely. If you have a decent tight end, Matt Ryan is going to target him. We had Tony Gonzalez, of course, we're going to target him. And then we had Austin Hooper, who after his first season, he gained some traction, and he was a good player for us. So, yes, if you give a good quality player at tight end for Matt Ryan, he's going to target him, and that's going to mean less targets for Ridley and Julio. And as far as Ridley reaching Julio's ceiling, I believe he can do it. He has a better connection with Matt Ryan than Julio does. It's been multiple plays where Matt Ryan has underthrown Julio. He's wide open, and he's underthrown him, and now Julio can't even get the touchdown because he have to slow down the catching and tackle him. But as far as Ridley, he throws it on the rope and really just catches it and runs to the end zone. Therefore, it's a lot of upside with Ridley. I love his game. As D mentioned, he's a technician when running routes, and I love guys who can run routes. You mentioned Steve Smith. As a Falcons fan, I hated watching him play us, but I loved the way he played the game. He was undersized, and he still ran crisp routes and was able to get open and talk all the stuff in the world to him. So I just love that. And as far as Calvin Ridley goes, he's taking the spot of not. I don't want to say that, but he's falling in line right behind Julio. He's a great professional. He works on his craft. He's not out getting in trouble. He's a team player, and every Sunday when he goes on the field, he puts on the show, man. No corner can guard Ridley. I said it. I love the guy. He's here to stay, and his ceiling is up there. He's going to pass Rodney White numbers. He may not get all the receiving yards that Julio got because that is crazy. Yeah. But for sure he's going to pass Julio in touchdowns and possibly receptions maybe.
The way he played, like you could tell me that Steve Smith was 6'10", and I'd believe you. Like he was a dog, man. He was awesome.
Love him.
Yeah.
He's the same person as an analyst too.
Yeah, exactly. No doubt. Brother Matt, I mean, is there any other like the Russell Gages of the world or any of the other guys that are there? Like, is there anybody that you think, if given an opportunity, could break out kind of the way Gage did this last year?
No, not really. There's not really a whole lot of other Falcons I'm trying to roster right now other than Ridley. Maybe a little bit of Hayden Hurst in some of these tight end premium leagues, just hoping that year two in that system, he gets I guess it's not going to be year two in the system, but year two with Ryan, maybe he gets a little more comfortable with Ryan, loving that tight end.
Yep.
No, not really.
D, you mentioned Pitts, obviously, but let's say Pitts, let's say that doesn't go that way, which I don't think many people would expect it to, but let's just say it doesn't. Would you think Hayden Hurst, I mean, you look at the way things went the offseason, like didn't have a lot of time. Could Hurst develop into somebody who is pretty good there?
I was kind of, riding the hype for Hurst coming into this past year. Just seeing what Austin Hooper was able to do in this Atlanta offense, and Hayden Hurst being the former had the measurables that you're looking for. I was kind of hyping it up a little bit, and he was kind of a letdown, I think, for most, while he did limp along and end up being, a back end tight end one, it he didn't quite live up to, what we saw out of Austin Hooper the year prior. And as much as I love Hayden Hurst, I think ultimately in this draft, the Falcons just need to make sure that, they don't miss. You don't want to start a new regime and come in here with a miss. And, let's face it, outside of Trevor Lawrence, as much as we do like some of these prospects, there's risk that comes with these guys. We've seen what happens with quarterbacks selected in the first round. There's a bunch of them floating around as backups right now. So does this team want to come in and draft a guy, A, to sit behind the quarterback that they're stuck with right now, and B, after that's said and done, maybe not even be the right guy? I think that they can't afford to do that coming in here, especially with the 104. They need to make sure that they lock up a cornerstone piece. And I'm not saying that it has to be Kyle Pitts. Like I said, I'd like to see them maybe move back a little bit and get more capital, big capital guy, capital that's future money right there. So, just like Dynasty football, I'd love to see that and still get a guy. There's plenty of needs on this Falcons offense. It's not like there's one or two guys that they need to get to, make this fit. We're losing a bunch of guys potentially this year. And I think that if they could move back a little bit, get a few more pieces, an extra second, third rounder or whatever, that could pay over dividends in the long run. So, but like I said, at 104, if it comes down to it, I want the best player available on my board if I can't move that piece.
It is a bit of a difficult situation, and I think Terry Fontenot does have his work cut out for him. I think he's up to the task, but I think he's got some work because I think he's only got about 38 or 39 guys on the roster right now. You would want to get up to 53, and he's $18 million over the cap. So it is a bit of a puzzle he's got to try and put together. But if he can, Javar, is there a free agent that you kind of have in mind that you'd like to bring in, even if it's somebody on the defensive side of the ball, something like that? Is there anybody you've kind of got your eyes on that you would want your team to bring in and start next year?
I want somebody that's nasty in the trenches. I want a nasty old lineman to just murder D lineman, open up the hole for the running back, or hold the D lineman so they don't sack Mac Ryan. Or, I want somebody next to Grady Jarrett that's going to open it up a little bit for Grady Jarrett to make some plays. Somebody just apply some pressure. That's all we need. We have AJ Terrell. He's a decent cornerback, and that's about the only cornerback we have on our team. Everybody else is always out of place. Kendall Sheffield is out of place. Oliver, oh my goodness, I call him burnt bacon because he's always and so therefore we need somebody on that D line to apply the pressure to the quarterback so he can get the ball out of his hands quicker, and it won't show that our coverage is bad. So that's what I really want. But as far as fantasy-wise, I would love a decent running back to come in there. And I just believe a running back in the Falcons system has always been gold besides last year. The previous years before that, you loved a running back in the Falcons system. So I think and then it's Arthur Smith, who's had the number one running back, for 2 years, who made Derrick Henry look like a god out there, unstoppable. So I would be very hyped if they get as a fantasy person, I would be very hyped if they get a profile name running back in that system, because I think Arthur Smith would do wonders with them either. So I don't think we get anybody at wide receiver. Russell Gage, he showed that he's a decent player in the slot. He can work and get open. He dropped a couple passes, but he's a decent player, and we don't have to pay him much. And tight end Hurst, I'm not buying it. I think his other tight end, especially this year, is people like Jonnu Smith, who's going to be a free agent. I think David Njoku is a free agent. Hunter Henry, a free agent. Hunter Henry, you got to pay for him, but David Njoku and Jonnu Smith, those are some guys I'm waiting to see where they go. Just think about Jonnu Smith in Green Bay, or somewhere like that. He's going to be gold. So I actually picked up Jonnu Smith and David Njoku late in the startup Dynasty draft this offseason because they're free agents, and it's a good possibility that their prospect meter can only go up from here, man.
He's got some familiarity with Arthur Smith, that's for sure. So that could be an interesting connection. Matt, last question. Did the Braves do enough to keep up with the rest of the division to be able to take home an NL East title?
Man,
Again.
You're asking the wrong guy. I'm a so NFL dude these days. I know D Brown and my whole True North fam, they watch hockey, and some of these other cats are all on the March Madness or the NBA, but man, not me. Asking the wrong guy.
We there. The Braves, just think about it. We did all this last year without the best pitcher, one of the best young pitchers in the game. He was the whole season. He's coming back. We not Drew Smiley, but it's Charlie Morton, I think.
Yeah.
We
Smiley too, though. I'm actually kind of excited. Like, I know it's not a big name, but I kind of think Drew Smiley's got a little something.
If he can reach back in his bag from previous years, I like it. So we have our starting pitching is going to be crazy, man, and very young. All those guys are going to be young, man, and they can pitch very well. So I'm highly excited. And the 1 through the 6, we got Ozuna. We got him right there behind Freddie Freeman. That was it. As long as we signed Ozuna right behind Freddie Freeman to protect Freddie Freeman, I feel like we're one of the best in the leagues. We can compete with the Dodgers.
Christian Passion, center field, patrolling out there.
I can't wait.
Andrew Jones.
Hey, Andrew Jones said he's the best defender he has ever seen, and that is speaking a lot because I read a lot on the young prospects. There was a lot of hype around Ronald Acuna being one of the best defensive specialists, and now they saying Christian Apache is one of the best.
Better.
And then he's very young, so he's just starting to grow into his body. So now his power is going to start to come at the plate. I am very excited about this Braves team. They're starting to look like the Braves team that won 13 pennant races. We're on the way, baby.
Yep. Well, guys, this was fun. I think that's a pretty good show right there. Like we talked about all the players. D, anything else you want to add on the Falcons or the Braves or the Hawks? What about Trae Young?
I'm probably a little bit more in tune with the Hawks than I even am with the Braves these days. Like Brother Matt, I'm pretty much full on NFL. Investing a whole lot of other sports content. It almost seems comical to even be able to do. I do watch a little bit of hockey here and there as I played a good bit growing up. So, but all in all, I don't get a whole lot of other sports action as far as in-depth detail. But I'm super excited about the Falcons this year. The new management coming in and just kind of seeing, like I said, setting the tone here at the 104 and seeing what direction as a franchise we're heading, hoping that they make good moves and really like this team to be relevant again here in the near future and moving forward. So, big ups to Smith and company. I hope they got some tricks up their sleeve for this offseason.
Can't tell you guys how much I appreciate you guys coming on doing the show. Brother Matt, one last time, just tell everybody where they can find you and how we can support you during this off season.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say thanks for having us on here, Cal. Being a Saints fan and all, you could have brought it to us a lot harder because y'all have had a lot more success over the last couple of years. So that was decent of you. But yeah, you can find me at Dynasty Dude on Twitter, at Dynasty Sons of Dynasty on Twitter, and at True North FFB.
Awesome. Doing great work over there. Really appreciate you coming on. And yeah, look, Drew Brees era is done. I'm not confident enough to talk trash right now. All right. We got a lot of work to do and we're going to cut a lot of good players. So maybe last year I would have spent a little bit more time giving it to you, but Jamar, how about you? Like, where can we find you? How can we support you during this off season?
You just messed it up, Kyle. And I was about to say you're the nicest Saints fan I ever met, but you just told us why you're nice. But my Twitter handle is bar_knows, but you can more so find me at Fantasy in Session on Twitter. Which, like I said, we're gonna bring a lot of content. We have a league where it's a Black Lives Matter league, and we have 48 people in it this year. Where wanted to push it more, and where we have the proceeds most of the proceeds from this league go just to combat social justice issues, if it's with the police system. But more so this year, we sent it to a program that helps feed kids outside of school and help provide backpacks and things like that. So we just using our platform to give back and do positive things. And that's what we're here for. So just follow us at Fantasy in Session. It won't be the last time you see the Sons of Dynasty and Viper get together. We're going to reach out to you guys and have y'all on our show as well.
That's awesome.
Love y'all over there, man.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And hey, for that league, actually, I want to talk to you after the show because I got something on that I want to run by you.
Okay, that works.
Yeah, D, how about you? Where can we find you? And I appreciate your patience, man. We tried to set this up a couple of times, and some things came up for me. I appreciate your patience and willing to move things back, and it worked out best. I'm glad we were able to get these guys involved too.
Yeah, man, definitely. Just like a startup dynasty, stay watered, my friends. So, I'm always trying to stay flexible, and get in as many shows as I can. I can't thank you enough for reaching out to me and getting me on here to talk some Falcons ball with these guys. Ended up being a great episode. Really, really do appreciate that. Just one other thing I wanted to bring up is this off season, make sure you check out Bright Skies Best Ball League. It's a charity put together by a couple of guys, Ben and Julian, raising awareness for cyberbullying. Sons of Dynasty is going to be a part of it. They're doing a pot-a-thon during the best ball draft. We're going to be hosting for an hour. So make sure you check that out. Make a donation if you can. We're looking to get into a couple of things for Sons of Dynasty as far as, reaching out and trying to make a difference in the community however we can. So, even a simple like, retweet, or whatever on any of that you see, really, really can help out and go a long way. So, once again, Cal, appreciate you having us on here, man. It has been an absolute pleasure. I hope we get to do it again.
Yeah, man, me too, no doubt. And I do plan on doing these again after the draft. Like once, over the summer, once we kind of know how all the pieces fall into place, come back together and just talk about like what they ended up doing and how that's going to play out during the season. Definitely planning on doing that. And I love what you guys mentioned there. This is exactly, so many people. We had Bob Lung on last night, and he was talking about his, charity leagues and the things that he does. I don't know if you guys know, but in December, we did a huge 4-hour. We had Scott Fish on. We had a bunch of guys just called Fantasy Cares, where we were just talking about the fantasy community. And it's just amazing the different things, not just here, but all over the globe that people are doing in the fantasy world. And Scott Fish really started a lot of that. And it's sparked so many of us to do these things in our communities. And that is something that, and that's what I was going to mention is I'd love to be able to have you guys on that. It was 4 hours last time. I think it's going to have to be a lot longer than that next time to get everybody in, but that would be awesome to have you guys a part of that. So for these guys, the Dynasty Vipers, and by the way, make sure you follow me as well at Calvin and Hobby and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Part of that is, it'd be great to have everybody signed up for that, but you also don't want to miss the things that we're doing this off season. I'm wrapping up my last 2 team spotlight series. Those are in a playlist there. If you're looking for a primer for what could happen in the free agency, that's what we did it for. Also, we got Sigmund Bloom on this week. We got Mike Wright coming up, FF Hitman. We've got some great episodes that we've done, and they're timeless. Like we don't talk about a lot of football. We talk with Paul Charchian about his history, fax machines and 1-800 numbers and, things like that to get the fantasy scores, doing box scores to, fill out and figure out how many fantasy points everybody has, things like that. Bob Harris and Adam Rank. We have just some great guests on. We have Marcus Grant coming on at some point. A lot of cool names, a lot of them that I can't even announce yet, but excited about all those. So make sure you guys are tuning in. So for these guys, for Matt over there, Dynasty Vipers, and all that whole crew, we appreciate you guys tuning in. I got my last 2 tomorrow. Tune in for those, and then we will.